You know that highly specific feeling, like you were standing in the middle of a crowded room.
Oh,
It
yeah.
could be like an industry networking event or, a dinner party with acquaintances, maybe just the corporate break room, right?
Right, just anywhere with forced proximity.
Exactly. And you can hear the ice clinking in glasses. You see this subtle choreography of people laughing and effortlessly bouncing off each other's conversational cues.
Yeah, the social dance.
But surrounded by all that activity, you feel this acute, almost physical sense of isolation. Like it feels as though everyone else in that room is fluently speaking a foreign dialect.
I mean, that is such a universal experience for so many people.
It really is. And it isn't that they are doing anything wrong, right? They just seem to be navigating this complex game of, social contracts and surface level reciprocity.
While you're just standing there.
Yes, feeling incredibly out of place.
Yeah.
Like you somehow missed the mandatory orientation on how human interaction is supposed to actually work.
Well, it's a really profound type of isolation, mostly because it's invisible.
Right. You aren't alone.
Exactly. You are not physically alone, which makes the loneliness so much harder to justify to yourself. But from a perceptual standpoint, you are entirely unmet.
Wow. Unmet.
Yeah, because what you are witnessing in those environments is usually just a performance of connection,
Right.
right? It's a reciprocal exchange of social signals. It's not actual grounding contact.
And that exact friction is what we are exploring today. So for this deep dive, we are pulling from this really fascinating text. It's titled The Art of Somatic Presence and Social Sovereignty.
It is a brilliant piece of work, truly.
It is. And our mission today is to decode the mechanics behind why certain individuals feel so, well, chronically out of place in standard social settings.
Right, and more importantly, how to actually navigate them.
Yes, how to navigate these environments without burning out and without, inadvertently overwhelming the ecosystem of the room.
Which, as the text points out, is a significant occupational hazard when you naturally operate on a totally different perceptual frequency than the majority of the room.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the text relies heavily on two very specific concepts right from the jump. Somatic socialization and monadic socialization.
Yeah, those are foundational.
So how does the author differentiate this monadic idea of, touching without merging from just standard somatic empathy?
Well, it is a critical distinction in the text. So, to start, the author defines somatic socialization as an approach where the physical body, like your nervous system, is treated as the primary organ of communication.
Okay, so the body comes first.
Right. So, long before you process the semantic meaning of the words coming out of someone's mouth, your system is already reading them.
Like reading their body language?
Deeper than that, reading their respiration rate, the microtension in their jaw, the energetic tone of the space between you. You are continuously processing the subtext beneath the polite chatter.
Oh, wow. So your nervous system is basically acting as an antenna,
Exactly.
picking up the actual reality of the room, regardless of what is being said out loud.
Precisely. It is a biological data gathering process, and it happens completely before any conscious intellectual analysis takes place.
That sounds exhausting, honestly.
It can be. And that natural hyperattunement is what leads to the second concept, which is monadic socialization.
Right, the monad.
Yeah, so the author defines a monad as a complete sovereign unit. In a relational context, monadic socialization happens when you view yourself and the other person as two distinct whole fields.
Okay, so you aren't blending.
Right. When contact happens, those two fields touch, but they do not merge.
They just meet at the edge.
Yes. Neither person abandons their distinct center to blend into this sort of, hyper-empathic, codependent soup. You remain entirely yourself, they remain entirely themselves, and you meet right at the boundary.
That makes so much sense. But the text argues that this type of genuine bounded contact is exceedingly rare in daily life, right?
Oh, absolutely. Most conventional socializing is highly transactional rather than relational.
The text actually frames it almost like mutual maintenance. Like people are effectively saying, I will validate your constructed social identity if you validate mine.
That is exactly what small talk usually is.
There's this specific assertion from the source that really highlights the friction here. I love this quote. The author argues that for a highly somatic person, engaging in conventional socialization feels like a category error.
Yes, the costume party analogy.
Yes. They say it feels like showing up to a costume party in your actual body.
I mean, it just perfectly captures the vulnerability of the experience, doesn't it?
It totally does. You are offering this raw, unshielded presence in an environment that was structurally designed only for pleasantries.
Which is terrifying.
Right. But this introduces a natural tension. If someone possesses this heightened capacity for deep somatic connection, why does attempting to initiate it usually backfire?
Oh.
Like, why does speaking this deeper dialect so often result in awkwardness or just a total collapse of the conversation?
So the author attributes this to the mechanics of mismatched registers.
But wait, if the underlying goal of all human interaction is authentic connection, doesn't holding back our deeper perception contradict the very idea of being genuine?
I see where you're going with this.
Right, like we hear so much about living your truth. So if you can accurately perceive someone's underlying reality, why does the text suggest that acknowledging it is a misstep?
Because accuracy does not automatically equal safety.
Well, that's a good.
What's fascinating here is that the text introduces this concept called the spotlight effect to explain the psychological mechanics at play.
A spotlight effect, right?
Imagine a room that has been dark for a very, very long time. The people inside have adapted, right? Their pupils have completely dilated to navigate the dim environment.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
If you suddenly walk in and turn on a million candle power spotlight, you aren't helping them see better, you are blinding them.
Oh, wow. You are triggering like a biological flinch response.
Exactly. When somatic perception is turned outward without first establishing a relational structure or, a foundation of mutual trust, it functions just like that blinding light.
It exposes things.
It exposes everything. And the psychological reality is that people build defensive scaffolding for very good evolutionary reasons. They're not always prepared or resourced to be exposed like that.
So their nervous system just interprets the sudden visibility as a literal threat.
Yes. If a person hasn't consciously invited you into that deeper layer of their psyche, if they perhaps don't even have the vocabulary for the emotional weight they are carrying, they will experience your deep seeing as an intrusion.
Even if you mean well.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
You might be offering this perception with complete empathy and pure intentions, but their amygdala just processes it as an attack.
Because your light is bypassing their carefully constructed defenses without their consent.
Exactly.
The author actually terms this phenomenon contact shock, which occurs when we are what they call honest too soon.
Honest too soon. Yes.
Like, you might be perfectly accurate in your assessment. You see the hidden grief, or the unvoiced frustration they are carrying right beneath the small talk.
You see the reality.
Right. But externalizing that perception before the structural integrity of the relationship can actually hold it, it causes them to withdraw defensively.
It completely destabilizes the interaction. And it does that because the pacing was entirely dictated by your capacity to see, rather than their capacity to be seen.
Wow, and this brings up a concept that text calls somatic sovereignty, which I think completely reframes the whole idea of authenticity.
It really does.
The author clarifies that withholding your deep perception isn't a form of masking. It isn't being fake.
Right.
Instead, you simply categorize that perception as internal data. Like, you can feel the entire emotional reality of the room. You process all of that subtle information, and you still choose to say very little.
Yeah, because authenticity doesn't require broadcasting every single data point you collect. That is the essence of boundaries. Somatic sovereignty is recognizing that just because you have the perceptual ability to access a piece of information does not mean that information belongs in the shared space.
It requires a lot of discipline, doesn't it?
Profound discipline
Yeah.
to hold that data internally without acting on it.
So, okay, if we accept that we shouldn't just indiscriminately shine this high beam spotlight on people, how does the text suggest we actually navigate interaction?
Right. How do we connect?
Yeah. How do we safely determine if someone actually possesses the metabolic capacity for real monadic connection?
So the author outlines a practical roadmap for this, and they
Yeah.
refer to it as the gradient of disclosure.
The gradient of disclosure.
Yes, it is this calibrated methodology for moving from the superficial layers of interaction into the depths. And the underlying mechanism here is that this progression must always, always be paced to the other person's nervous system and readiness, not your own hunger for depth.
Which is so challenging. Because when someone is like starved for genuine contact, the biological impulse is to just rush past the superficial layers to get to the substance.
Exactly, and the gradient is designed to counteract that exact rush. So the framework begins with layer 1, the field of social function.
Okay, social function.
This encompasses what we typically call small talk, The logistics, the weather, the immediate environment.
Which is usually the exact layer that somatic communicators find agonizing.
Oh, torturous.
But the text offers this really fascinating defense of small talk.
Mm.
Rather than dismissing it as hollow or tedious, the author compares this layer to the vestibule of a house.
I love this analogy.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It serves as the outer structure. You don't live your life in the vestibule, but without it, the interior of the house isn't secure from the outside world.
Right.
Engaging in the vestibule allows the other person's nervous system to recognize you as predictable and non-threatening.
It establishes a baseline of normalcy, right? Predictability downregulates the nervous
That
system.
makes them feel safe.
Exactly. And once that physiological safety is established in the vestibule, the gradient suggests testing the waters with layer 2, a shared interest or observation.
What did that look like in practice?
This involves offering a comment on a concept, an external event, or like a piece of media. It is genuine, but it remains structurally safely outside of the personal self.
Okay, so.
You are essentially sending out a low-stakes ping to see how it reflects back. You are looking to see if there is a spark of genuine curiosity, basically checking to see if a door even exists at that depth.
And if they respond to that ping-like, if they show actual engagement, the author suggests moving to layer 3, the honest personal.
Right.
This is where you offer a calibrated, true disclosure about yourself. It shouldn't be your most raw, unprocessed trauma, obviously.
No trauma dumping.
Right, just a genuine opinion or a small vulnerability. You are modeling the depth you are inviting them into.
And this is where the framework requires radical non-attachment.
Because they might leave.
Exactly. The text stresses that a vast majority of people will exit the interaction at this specific threshold.
Wow, a vast majority.
Yeah. When presented with the honest personal, they will gracefully pivot the conversation back to the safety of the vestibule, or they will simply excuse themselves.
And that hurts.
It does. But the critical shift in mindset here is learning to view that retreat as data rather than rejection.
Data, not rejection.
Right. It is an objective indicator of their current metabolic capacity for connection on that specific day. It's not about you.
Framing someone's exit as an assessment of their capacity rather than a rejection of your personality, that is a massive paradigm shift.
It changes everything.
But if they do stay, and if they meet that vulnerability with their own, the text suggests the interaction might organically shift into layer 4, somatic or monadic contact.
The Holy Grail.
Right. And the author notes this layer cannot be forced or arranged. It is an emergent property of two regulated nervous systems just syncing into synchrony.
And it often manifests non-verbally, doesn't it?
Yeah, through matched respiration, sustained presence, and this unmistakable mutual recognition.
Moving sequentially through this radiant ensures that if you do reach that monadic depth, the structural integrity of the interaction can actually support it.
You aren't withholding your depth. You are systematically preparing the soil before you plant the seed.
Beautifully put.
The author also provides these behavioral mechanics for pacing this process. Real practical tips. The first is to offer and then actively wait.
Yes, wait and watch.
When you introduce a deeper observation, you have to pause and observe their physiological response. Are they leaning in, or is there a micro flinch of hesitation?
You have to read the data.
Right. The second principle is to match their rhythm before introducing your own. And this isn't about people-pleasing. It is a biological technique.
Right, you enter their field smoothly.
Exactly. By matching their tempo, when you eventually slow the conversation down to your preferred depth, it feels like a natural deceleration rather than an abrupt halt.
It's seamless.
And the third principle is to let silence function as an open invitation.
Silence is deeply telling.
It really is.
Somatic individuals often find silence regulating, right? But for a person accustomed to conventional socializing, silence can trigger anxiety. It can feel like a pointed demand for them to perform.
Oh, I've definitely felt that panic.
We all have. So the text advises cultivating a quality of silence that communicates warmth and spaciousness. A physical signaling that says, I am holding this space comfortably, rather than, I am waiting for you to entertain me.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because even if you apply the gradient flawlessly, even if you master the pacing and cultivate that warm, spacious silence, you can still walk away from a party feeling profoundly physically exhausted.
Utterly drained.
Yes. The text dedicates a significant portion to what it calls energy economics. So what are the actual mechanics behind this feeling of being energetically drained? Beyond just needing a nap.
Well, from a somatic perspective, energetic drain is not merely a metaphor for social fatigue. It is a measurable physiological process.
Measurable.
Yes. Drain occurs mechanically when you continuously extend your perceptual attention, your empathic bandwidth, into a relational field and receive absolutely zero reciprocal energy back.
Oh.
Your system is literally burning metabolic fuel to maintain a connection that the other person is not actively participating in.
It's just a one-way street.
Mm.
But the text also highlights a more insidious mechanism for drain, which involves involuntary attunement.
Yes, and this is deeply rooted in the function of mirror neurons and nervous system regulation.
Okay.
Involuntary attunement happens when you are in proximity to someone who is carrying a high volume of unprocessed emotional material.
Even if they aren't talking about it.
Exactly. Because a somatic person's nervous system is naturally highly permeable, it will automatically attempt to process that emotional data for the other person completely outside of conscious consent.
Oh my gosh.
You are functioning as an external regulator for their nervous system. That is why it feels extractive. Your physiological resources are literally being utilized to process their emotional load.
The natural instinct, when you realize this is happening, is to try and just shut it all down, to build an impenetrable psychological brick wall around yourself before you step into a public space.
Which is what a lot of people do.
But the author argues against this defense mechanism. So
Yeah.
what is the solution?
Well, the text makes a brilliant distinction. The boundary is not a wall, because a wall is a blunt instrument. A wall keeps out the toxicity, sure, but it also starves you of connection.
Right, he keeps everything out.
The text advocates instead for conceptualizing your boundary as a membrane.
A membrane.
Think of a semi-permeable cell wall in biology. Through the process of osmosis, a healthy cell membrane allows essential nutrients to pass through while actively blocking pathogens.
The author calls this intelligent permeability.
Yes, intelligent permeability.
So to construct this intelligent membrane, the text outlines these 5 practical calibrations. Let's run through them. The first step involves establishing proprioception, what the author calls pre-contact grounding.
Crucial step.
Like, before entering a high-stimulus environment, you have to consciously locate your physical center, whether that is feeling the weight of your feet on a floor or tracking your respiration. Because if you don't know where your own biological baseline is, you won't be able to detect when a room is pulling you out of it.
That's absolutely right. The author then introduces a vital calibration regarding how we process empathy, distinguishing between resonance and absorption.
This one blew my mind.
It is the difference between sympathetic resonance and parasympathetic empathy. Resonance is the act of feeling with. You can accurately perceive and honor someone's grief or anger, but your own nervous system remains structurally intact.
You leave it with them.
Right. Absorption, however, is the act of taking on. You absorb their emotional state into your own tissues, and you walk away carrying a physiological burden that never belonged to you in the first place.
Wow.
Training your nervous system to resonate without absorbing is perhaps the most critical skill for maintaining a healthy membrane.
The text also addresses the internal pressure we feel during these interactions, which it calls the signal of obligation.
Oh, this is a big one.
It's the ability to recognize the distinct physical difference between a genuine, spontaneous desire to offer someone your presence versus that heavy, conditioned feeling of emotional labor.
Right, the I should feeling.
Exactly. We are so socially conditioned to believe that if someone needs an empathic ear, we are obligated to provide it. The membrane allows you to feel that external pull without automatically obeying it.
Which logically leads to the fourth point, the permission to exit.
Yes.
The framework gives explicit permission to conclude an interaction cleanly. You are not bound by a social contract to remain in a dynamic until the other person is fully regulated or satisfied.
You can just leave.
You can exercise quiet authority, smoothly disengaging without the need for dramatic over-explanation or manufactured excuses.
And finally, the 5th calibration. The text emphasizes the biological necessity of homeostasis, framing recovery as a sacred practice.
It is not a luxury.
Right. Returning to a baseline state, whether that means sitting in total silence, listening to specific audio frequencies, or simply just being alone, is a necessary metabolic function.
It is non-negotiable.
If you continuously skip the recovery phase, you are entering your next interaction operating at a physiological deficit, which just degrades the integrity of your membrane.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, operating at a deficit doesn't merely harm you. It fundamentally alters the impact you have on the surrounding environment.
Okay, wait.
We have spent this entire time analyzing how we are drained by conventional social spaces, right?
Yeah.
But the author introduces an inverse dynamic that requires a fair amount of self-reflection. We have to consider how deep somatic presence can inadvertently exhaust others.
That part of the text really forces a perspective shift, because we usually think of ourselves as the victims of energy drain. We view our desire for depth as an unalloyed good.
Always.
But the author points out that a highly somatic person can easily drain a room simply by requiring a level of presence that is too heavy for others to maintain.
We have to acknowledge the metabolic load of a high bandwidth emotional exchange. Engaging in deep monadic contact requires immense cognitive and emotional processing power.
It's heavy lifting.
It is. When you bring the full, intense force of your somatic perception to a casual interaction, it unconsciously pressures the other person to match that depth.
And they might not be able to.
And for someone whose nervous system is adapted to the lighter, faster rhythm of the vestibule, that pressure is exhausting. They simply do not have the metabolic stamina for it.
It is analogous to insisting someone run a marathon at your pace when they only dressed for a brisk walk.
Exactly.
And the text makes a crucial point here, which I think is so reassuring for you, the listener. If someone cannot sustain your level of depth, it is not a moral failing on their part.
No, not at all.
It doesn't mean they are superficial or that they lack emotional intelligence. They are simply operating on a different biological and social algorithm. They possess a different metabolic range for connection.
And the author's solution to this inverse dynamic is the practice of dosing. Dosing? Like medicine.
Yeah. Rather than flooding the relational field with the entirety of your depth all at once, you offer your presence in small, complete, generous doses.
Okay.
You introduce a single, true element, and then you step back, providing them the necessary space to process it and formulate their own response.
That makes a lot of sense.
Pacing the exchange in this manner generates far more sustainable contact than trapping someone in the intensity of your full perceptual field before they actually have the capacity to hold it.
So what does this all mean when we step back and look at the entire framework? When we integrate these concepts of the spotlight effect, the gradient of disclosure, intelligent permeability, and the metabolic costs of connection?
It fundamentally shifts how we evaluate socializing.
It really does. It removes the judgment. Conventional socialization, the vestibule, is primarily about maintenance, and that's okay. It is designed to maintain societal bonds and establish mutual comfort, and there's immense value in that function.
But recognizing that value also means understanding that your own longing for deep monadic connection is not a pathology. You are not flawed for feeling unfulfilled by the vestibule. It is simply a matter of perceptual discernment.
And operating with that discernment requires redefining our concept of patience.
How so?
Well, in a somatic context, patience is not a passive state of waiting, nor is it a sense of resignation to loneliness. It is a highly active, disciplined skill.
Patience.
Yes. It involves the ongoing practice of staying internally centered, maintaining sovereign contact with your own nervous system, and trusting the organic biological timing of how human beings connect.
Trusting the timing.
The ultimate goal, as the author beautifully summarizes, is to move through the world boundaried without being closed, to remain intensely present without being consumed.
Present without being consumed. What a line.
It's the whole thesis right there.
It really is. Thank you for joining us as we explored the mechanics of this text. We have spent this session entirely focused on how we regulate our somatic presence in relation to others, right? How we utilize the gradient and the membrane to avoid overwhelming them with our perceptual spotlight. But I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to consider regarding your own internal ecosystem.
Oh, this is important.
What happens when you are entirely alone? Do you ever subject yourself to the spotlight effect?
Wow.
When examining your own psyche, are there layers of your own internal vestibule that you are aggressively bypassing? Are you rushing to expose your own deepest, most raw truths, demanding immediate internal authenticity before your own nervous system has built the structural capacity to safely process it?
A vital question of internal sovereignty.
Truly.
No.
It's something to carefully analyze the next time you find yourself standing in that crowded room, listening to the clinking glasses, finally at peace with the fact that you just speak an entirely different dialect. Until next time.